Hi there and welcome to my channel. Today's project is actually a special one because this is part of the blog hub as Altenew and Pinkfresh Studio are collaborating to create a new collection. It's called Let's Celebrate, and I am very blessed to be part of both the design teams. I am showing you already some of the pages that I created for the Altenew blog, and you're going to see all of this in my blog, but I'm going to show you actually a process video that's going to combine quite a bit of the paper with some of the stamps, and this is in the Pinkfresh Studio blog too. So I'm going to show you quite a quick look of what the collection is all about, and it actually has two stamps, beautiful stamps by the way, that you can customize with inks or you can color them whichever way you want to do them. And then you have a collection of papers, 12 by 12, a 6 by 6 paper pad, and ephemera. And trust me, it's plenty. You can bring your dies, you can bring your stamps. There's so much you can do with it. So what I'm going to create for this page, you're going to see right now that it's going to be inspired by this layout. And for this layout, I use the This Day paper, which is the gray paper, and I use the Celebrate Us stamp set. This is the one I'm showing you right now. And then for the second part, I use the Always paper, which has a painted background, and I use the Celebrate Today stamp and the sentiments. So I'm gonna kind of mingle all of these two together into this layout. So for this, I am actually gonna use the leftover piece of paper from the Always paper, and it has a beautiful painted border, so I know that I'm gonna take advantage of that. And the background paper is called Progress. So what I'm gonna do is I brought these two pictures. This is my friend Tara, and we've been friends for a long time, but it was last year that we actually got to meet because we're friends online. That's the beauty of design teams, you make friends. So she was on one of my design teams and we became really good friends, and now we're really good, closer friends. So what I'm gonna do for this is I'm gonna use the flower from the Celebrate Us stamp set, and this is the one that has the buildable flower. And I already used it in my TN, but I'm going to show you now how I used it. So first of all, I'm going to stamp the outline using black obsidian ink from Altenew. It's just a really crisp black ink, and it's going to give me the detailed edges of the flowers. So once I've stamped, I'm going to stamp all the centers with Lemon Whip, which is from the Pinkfresh Studio Crisp Ink collection. This is Lemon Whip, all the centers. And then I'm gonna skip this flower has one outline, and then it has an inside that you can color the entire flower. I'm gonna skip that step. I want to keep them really white because I already have all the color on the background. So what I'm using right now is Coral Reef, and that's like that corally tone. So I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm gonna skip coloring the flower, but instead I'm just gonna add the details. And then I'm gonna color the leaves. Again, the leaves are gonna, they only come at the edge, the outline, and then you can add details. So to add details and add a little bit of shadowing or depthness or dimension, whichever way you want to call it, I'm actually gonna use two colors of ink, Fresh Pear and Olive. And again, these are Pinkfresh Studio Crisp inks, and I'm gonna use a Fresh Pear. You're gonna see that I'm gonna cover the entire stamp with it, and then I'm gonna come in with Olive and just kind of lightly tap it at the edge, the inner edge of the stamp, the one that's going to be closer to the flower. So when I stamp it, it's going to give me that dimensional look. It's going to add depth onto this flower. So now that I have all stamped, I'm going to use the coordinating die, and this is the Celebrate Us coordinating die, and I'm gonna put it through my mini die cutting machine from Altenew. And then you're gonna see that out of the camera I've actually created some flowers. I use Misty Coat to bring some of the white, I use Lemon Whip for the centers, I use Ballet Slippers to create the light pink ones, I use Peach Fuzz to create that orangey tone, and then I use Coral Reef to give me that coral look. So I'm gonna clean all of that and start working on the layout. So one of the things that I worked outside of the camera is in the ephemera pack, there's two little frames, picture frames. So I sized my pictures to fit behind it. One is 2 by 2 and the other one is 2 1/4 or 2 1/2 by 2. So all I'm doing is I'm going to glue them straight onto my frames, the pictures, using a little bit of dimensional adhesive. Once I have that, you're gonna see that I'm actually gonna place the Always paper, which is the one with the painted background, on top of the Progress paper, which is the beautiful watercolor transition between pink and orange. I'm gonna put it right in the center. I'm gonna stitch through it, and pretty much I'm gonna create those two think of a halo of flowers around the picture. It's kind of a hug of flowers. So now that I have the idea ready, I took it off camera and went and stitched right through the center, and I actually cut the back paper because I don't want to waste it. And then all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to set up the idea, and I'm going to bring the Celebrate Today, which is the second stamp set, and I'm actually going to stamp right at the edges of where the cascade of flowers finish. I'm going to stamp with gray in the white part of the paper, which is the always paper. I just want the shadow in the background kind of elongate the flurry of flowers. It's just gonna add a little bit of shadow. It's gonna bring some interest to the background. So I'm gonna add gray with that. I'm actually gonna use ballet slippers to stamp another image continuously. So I'm gonna stamp it right next to the picture, going into the pink area of the paper, and you're gonna see that when I stamp it, the entire image is not gonna be fully covered, which I'm okay with because I want some distress, but especially because I am gonna cover quite a bit of this with the flowers. So I mostly want the edges, the outside edges or the outer edges of the stamp to show up, because that's what's actually going to show when you see the layout. And it's because I'm doing a tone on tone stamping, very little of it's going to show. You're going to see the shadow, but there's actually interest on the background. So I'm going to do the same on the other side, but this time I'm using peach fuzz to stamp on that orange area, and then I'm going to use again Misty Coat to stamp on the white area, and that's going to give me that like I said, it's a tone on tone, just a little bit of dimension and interest to the background. Now that I have that ready, if you see the always paper, like I said, it has all these paintbrush strokes at the edge, and the B-side has beautiful flower bases with some colorful flowers. It has some marking as of ink or paint that was dropping it, so I'm just gonna stand that, and I'm gonna use the same colors that I used to stamp the flowers to create some droplets of ink in this case, or so all I'm doing is just stamping the ink onto a piece of acrylic. I'm gonna dilute it with some water, and then I'm gonna use my brush just to add some splatters. I'm just gonna extend the areas where I'm gonna place the flowers, kind of create some interest, kind of elongate it, kind of give a little bit of punch of the color if you want to say it. But even though I'm stamping, I think I need to bring some shine, some metallic. So I'm gonna bring the Altenew metallic watercolor set, and this set has all those colors and actually very vibrant. And I'm gonna mix a little bit of the rose gold and the yellow gold, and I'm just gonna add some splatters following the ones that I just added. Think of it as just elongated the cluster. That's pretty much what I'm doing. Just add a little bit of sparkle to the background. I'm gonna set that aside to dry. Because I'm not adding that much water, it's gonna dry pretty much super fast. And I love the fact that it's a little bit of shine and not lots. So while that was drying, I went out of camera and used, this is the Simply Sentiment die set. This is the U set from Pinkfresh Studio, and I also used the Celebrate Us die set. It actually comes with a word that says thankful, so I die cut the word thankful from a few papers from the collection, and I die cut the word U out of a few papers from the collection. I used a 6x6 for this, and all I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna glue some of them. I did not glue them before because I wanted to see what color is gonna match better once I set up the entire layout. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just gonna start by putting the frames in place. I want to make sure that one is right at the edge of the stitching line, and the other one's a little bit lower, so that I can, like I said, think of it, I'm gonna put the flowers as if they're hugging the two pictures. So now that I have them in place, and I added a little bit of foam adhesive behind the pictures just to make them stand out, pop from the page, I'm gonna go ahead and start building my cluster of flowers. I'm gonna start with the white flowers right next to the pictures. And those are the ones that I stamped with the gray detail, really light gray. And it's just because I wanted white. I know it's not gonna cover faces, and it's gonna make the picture stand out because of the picture frames. Now, one of the things that I usually do to all my flowers, especially when they're compound like this, is I'm gonna cut them. I just cut away the leaves just so they can fit the idea that I have. I want the flower, in this case, or the embellishment, to work with what I have in mind. So all I'm doing is just cutting the leaves just so that I can kind of tuck the flower nicer. It creates a nicer cluster. And then I'm gonna use the leftover leaves to bulk up the cluster. Along the way, I'm gonna use different foam adhesive, and what I mean by that is different heights or widths. I don't know which way you want to say it. It's just one's higher, one's lower, and that's just going to create that movement on the flowers. Now that I created the cluster on the left hand side, and you're going to see that I used all the colors. I used the white that I stamped with gray, the ballet slipper one, the coral, and that orangey tone one. I'm going to go ahead and start working on the right hand, but I'm going to make sure that I stamp, remember I stamped one extra coral reef. I stamped 2 of each, and on the coral one I stamped 3 of them, because I want to make sure that that one hangs a little bit lower. That's where I'm gonna add my title, and you're gonna see that I have actually no fear of cutting away embellishments to make it fit to my project. So once I'm just I debated a little bit on that yellow one until I realized that if I left it on the side, that I had that space on the top doesn't look that great to what I have in mind. So instead I'm going to use that orangey tone one, is the one that I stamped with the fuzzy peach, and I'm going to actually put it right in between the 2 pictures, and that's just going to create that halo kind of hug effect on the layout. Again, you're going to see me that all I'm doing right now is I'm playing with those leftover leaves, and that's just gonna help me create the movement, bulk up the cluster. And once I have all that in place, then I'm gonna start embellishing this layout, and it's not gonna take much because I think the flowers are doing quite a bit of the work, and these flowers were great in TNs, which is what I did before in my Life Crafted album. It works great on cards. You're gonna see a lot of examples of cards, and I love you see right now I'm just playing with the ideas of what I have in mind, so I like that better. That happy sentiment comes from the ephemera pack, and then this little card, which I think is beautiful, it says oh my god, I can't see it right now, a beautiful moment. And I love the sentiment. I don't want the entire card, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use my X-Acto knife just to cut the inside sentiment, and I'm gonna save the card. I'm sure that I can use it somewhere else, so I'm gonna use the little inside on the side of the frame. I'm gonna put it right next to the white picture, and you're gonna see that I put the happy right underneath the orange frame. I'm gonna bring a little puffy heart after just to complete that area. I'm adding some foam adhesive behind it just to give it some lift and make sure that it stands out. Just because it's a little bit busy, you gotta make sure that give it a little bit dimension, so it creates that shadow and makes everything stand out. Once I have that in place, here's where I started debating on the title, and I didn't debate as in like what I was gonna put in it, I just the color that I wanted to bring. So you're gonna see that I'm gonna play with some of the colors, and I'm actually gonna end up using the Thankful in the pink tone and the U in the peach tone. They all come from the 6x6, but all the papers that I cut, I'm just gonna layer them behind them, so that's gonna create like a dimensional die cut, kind of a chipboard in a way, but it's full of die cuts. So I'm just gluing them all together, and then I'm gonna glue it right at the bottom of the right cluster. Kind of, you see how the flowers create a movement, kind of an S shape, so I want the bottom of it to finish in the title. So my title is gonna read Thankful for You, and I have the Thankful from the die cut, and I also have the U, but to stamp the 4, I'm actually gonna stamp it. I'm gonna use the Celebrate Today, which is the second stamp set. That's the one that comes with a lot of the sentiments and the big cluster, flower cluster. So I'm gonna use black obsidian ink from Altenew for this, and I'm just gonna be very careful to add ink just to the 4 part of the sentiment. So you're gonna see that there's a little bit that went into the white. I'm just gonna clean it up, and I'm gonna stamp it right next to the U, and then my title is done. So all that's left to do right now is I'm gonna add extra pops of color and a little bit more sentiment to the page. So I'm gonna bring the Celebrate Today stamp set, and I'm gonna use the sentiments that come in the stamp set to add a few more to the flower. So around the top part of the layer where I have the colorful paper, that's where I'm gonna stamp the sentiments using coordinating ink. So you're barely gonna see it, and I'm gonna do a first and second generation stamping. What that means, I'm gonna stamp it with the full ink at first, and then whatever's left over, I'm just gonna continuously stamping until it's completely clear. So I'm just adding a few enamel dots. Sorry, these come from the Let's Stay Home collection from Pinkfresh Studio, and the other ones are from my stash because I wanted some gold just to bring the metallic that I have on the background. There you go. I'm bringing a puffy sticker for my stash, and that's about it. You're gonna see that I'm just gonna go ahead and add more ink on the right hand side just to make it stand out a little bit more and matches the left. And then to add my lines of journal, I'm actually gonna add it in two sections. Right underneath the happy ephemera and the little nook that the flowers created, and also right underneath the frame on the left hand side, again in the little nook the flowers created. And that's about it. I love how this turned out. This collection is amazing. There's so much you can do with it, and if you're a fan of Altenew and if you're a fan of Pinkfresh Studio, then this is, I think, the perfect collection. It brings the beautiful detail florals from both the places, the crisp papers, the new designs. Everything just works perfectly in this collection. And there's lots that you can do. Cards, because you have the stamps. Again, you can create a 12 by 12 layout, which is what I created. I created 2 TN pages, but you can see them in the blog, and I show you at the beginning, and you're gonna see a lot more projects in if you stop by the blog and take advantage of all the inspiration. You can see a lot of projects created. They're all beautiful, and also have a chance to win prizes. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me, and don't forget to join in the blog hub for a chance to win prizes. Take care, guys.